So, guys, Manchester United return in Premier League action on Sunday afternoon at home to Leicester City in Ruud van Nistelrooy's final game as Manchester United interim manager. We've got to thank, obviously, Ruud van Nistelrooy for everything he's done in this very, very turbulent last few weeks for Manchester United after the sacking of Erik ten Hag. You've got to applaud what Ruud van Nistelrooy has so far done with the players. You've got to applaud what he's been able to do. You've got to be able to applaud the performances we have seen, and you've got to obviously praise what Ruud van Nistelrooy has been able to achieve as Manchester United's interim manager, which has been quite a difficult process. Obviously, Ruud van Nistelrooy's had to dodge quite a few questions ahead of taking over Manchester United after Erik ten Hag was dismissed. And you've got to applaud his demeanour, you've got to applaud his attitude, and you've got to applaud his desire for what he's been able to do for Manchester United in these last few weeks. Because obviously, it's not been an easy process. It's been quite a difficult step for Ruud van Nistelrooy. He's been under quite a lot of pressure from the press and obviously the British media. And obviously he has faced a lot of questions regarding the players, their attitude, their commitment, and obviously their desire towards Manchester United Football Club. But I think, Ruud van Nistelrooy will hopefully go out with a bang on Sunday afternoon. We are playing Leicester City at Old Trafford. Leicester are 5 points above the current bottom three, with Ipswich, Southampton and Wolves only just below them. So Leicester are on 10 points. Manchester United are only 7 points above the bottom three on 12 points from 30. So Manchester United and Leicester are both in quite a dangerous position, if we're going to be really, really honest. Both clubs are only just above the bottom three. I didn't expect Manchester United to be in this position headed into this weekend. I want to see some kind of improvement after, the point that we saw against Chelsea last weekend. I thought it was a massive, massive missed opportunity for Manchester United to win that game, especially with the amount of chances we had on the Chelsea goal. And obviously the demeanour, how we conceded the goal when we took the lead, and in space of 4 minutes, we conceded the equaliser. I'm kind of hoping we won't see that again on Sunday afternoon. I think Manchester United are currently the favourites to win against Leicester. I think with the way things are going at Leicester City, Leicester are in more of a dangerous position than what we are. And obviously in the previous meeting, which was in the Carabao Cup fourth round, Manchester United took Leicester apart by 5-2 in the fourth round of the Carabao Cup. And obviously that was a very, very much changed team for Leicester with, their main priority is to be staying in the Premier League again for next season. And I think Leicester are trying to avoid relegation straight back to the Championship at the end of this current Premier League season. And I think that's why we saw Leicester City make the amount of changes that we saw under Steve Cooper as Leicester City's manager. And I think that is why Leicester didn't take the Carabao Cup so easily in the previous not so easy. Leicester City didn't take that cup tie as a main priority. Obviously, their main priority is to stay in the Premier League. And I think that is why we saw Steve Cooper make the amount of changes he saw and witnessed after that humbling we gave them at Old Trafford in the Carabao Cup fourth round. I think it will be a much more stronger Leicester City team. I think you'll see the more recognisable faces in that Leicester City team. Mavididi, Jamie Vardy, and many, many others in that Leicester City team who are going to be fighting a lot against Manchester United on Sunday. I think they are going to want to put a lot of the wrongs right ahead of that meeting on Sunday afternoon, because the way we were managing to be able to take Leicester City apart in that Carabao Cup game, it was way too easy for Manchester United to take Leicester apart. And I think that the problem with Leicester City is when you come into the Premier League and you've lost your manager and you've basically lost your best player, Leicester City were always going to struggle to be able to adapt to life back in the Premier League. And I think the truth has to be told now. These Championship clubs do not stand a chance when they come up to the Premier League. They don't have any fighting chance. They don't have the budget. They don't have the players. And they basically do not have the money to be able to compete with the rest of the current Premier League sides. This is why we see a lot of the promoted teams going straight back down again. I'm not surprised Leicester are in the position they lose when you lose a quality manager like Enzo Maresca and you then lose Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. It's going to be a massive, massive blow for Leicester. And I think Leicester City will fight in relegation from day one. I don't think Leicester City will go down. I think there's a lot worse teams in the Premier League than Leicester. I think Leicester will always manage to get out of that fight. I think they'll finish about mid-table. I think Steve Cooper will only just manage to keep Leicester above from the dreaded bottom line. And I think the three teams below them are probably in a worse position than what Leicester are in. But obviously, the point situation, it's not much of a gap. Leicester City are on 10 points, Manchester United are on 12. 12 points from 30 and 10 points from 30 is not exactly the points that I think either side would have wanted going in 10 games into this Premier League season already, with only another 28 remaining. So there's still plenty of points to fight for. But Manchester United, again, have to start winning in the league. We have to start climbing up that Premier League table, and we've got to start fighting and start trying to chase down our rivals, because the gap is getting bigger. The distance is getting further as well. And Manchester United are still way behind where we need to be. Ruud van Nistelrooy has done a good job so far. And I think, again, the new manager bounce is still in massive full swing at the moment. I think the players have been able to probably recognise that Ruud van Nistelrooy is a good coach. He is a good manager, but obviously the step from interim to manager is a massive, massive step. And again, there's a lot of these players wanting Ruud van Nistelrooy to stay at the club next season. For me, that is a negative more than a positive, because what my fear is that when the new manager comes in, we'll be in the same situation in 2 to 3 years' time where we're sacking another manager, and they'll end up giving Ruud the interim job when we go and then find yet again another manager. I don't want Ruud van Nistelrooy to stay beyond Sunday. I don't think that's the right direction for Manchester United to go in, because if it all does go wrong and the players want Ruud back in, then I think they'll end up eventually giving Ruud van Nistelrooy the manager's job. And Ruud van Nistelrooy, in his press conference today, has obviously come out and said that he would like to manage Manchester United for one day. I don't think that's a positive. I think that's a massive, massive negative on the legacy and the career that Ruud van Nistelrooy had at this football club, because he's an absolute for Manchester United. The trophies and the title speak for themselves. I don't want Ruud van Nistelrooy to end up in the same situation that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer ended up in, where I was very, very cautious. I was worried, but I was quite optimistic that it was going to work out, and we would end up seeing the DNA that Sir Alex Ferguson left when he retired, and we were going to be able to see the impact of a club legend be able to take on the great Sir Alex Ferguson. And what happened with Solskjaer is it will go all right for a while, and then it will come crashing back down to earth. And again, you have to question why Solskjaer got the job at the time he did. It's probably because Manchester United couldn't get any other manager in, and they couldn't really attract the best manager they wanted. And that is why it ended up failing under Solskjaer, because he didn't really have the backing of the Glazers. He was probably more of a yes man. He was probably a lot up the Glazers' ass, and probably had to say a few certain things in the press conference and probably try and avoid what's going on behind the scenes. And I think why Solskjaer failed was because he didn't exactly get back in, and he didn't really get the players that he wanted. And I don't want that to happen to Ruud van Nistelrooy. I think the coaching level between Ruud van Nistelrooy and Solskjaer is night and day. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy is a lot better. He obviously gets the DNA. He gets what Manchester United is about, and he actually goes in on the players when it went wrong yesterday, because even though we beat PAOK yesterday 2-0 in the UEFA Europa League on match day 4, he was still quite critical of the players. And that's what you want to see of a manager. You want to be able to see the expectation levels to be up here. And I think Ruud van Nistelrooy is trying to install that mentality back into the players, where I think under Erik ten Hag, it was a massive, massive softy approach. And I think for me, that is why it all went wrong. I think Ten Hag was backing a lot of these players when mistakes were happening. And that is why the performances were lacking. That mentality absolutely fell off from some of these players. And I think the softy approach to Ten Hag, it didn't work. And he was backing players that were making mistakes, and he was trying to protect them from the criticism that they were getting off the fans and off the supporters. And he was trying to protect the players when it was going wrong on the pitch. And I think that is where it all went wrong under Erik ten Hag, because certain players were putting in very, very embarrassing performances, and they were still getting protected by the manager. And certain players in that team weren't getting dropped, and certain players were starting every game. And I think what Ruud van Nistelrooy has done so far in the games that he's been in charge in, because it's going to be his last game on Sunday, in some aspects, it's going to be a sad moment because he's a club legend, and unfortunately, it's not really worked out as being the assistant manager under Erik ten Hag, because everyone's in the firing line. If the manager goes, all the coaches have also got to take massive responsibility. I want Ruud van Nistelrooy really to go out and be a manager somewhere else, because if he stays here and we end up sacking Ruben Amorim and then we give Ruud the job, it's going to go wrong very, very quickly, just like it did under Solskjaer. And I don't want that to happen to Ruud, because I think Ruud's a good coach. He is a good manager, and he deserves to be at a top club with proper structure. Even though Manchester United are slowly but surely bringing that back, I think the step from interim to permanent manager is a bit of a step too far for Ruud van Nistelrooy at this current moment in time. And I'm obviously hoping it goes well for him on Sunday, because we want to send him out of a bang. We want to give him a performance that we can remember. And we want to say thank you for what he's done in these last few turbulent weeks that this Manchester United fan base have been through, because it's been a tricky period. It's not been easy. It's been very, very difficult. And Ruud van Nistelrooy's had to try and get everyone back on side, because the fans haven't been happy. The supporters haven't been happy. And Ruud van Nistelrooy so far has got Leicester, Chelsea and PAOK. So he's got 4 points from 2 in his last 2 games. I think another 3 points is a must on Sunday with the position that Manchester United are in. We've got to try and get back into the top half of the Premier League table. We've got to try and get European football back for next season. I'm not saying it's all going to be sunshine and roses under Ruben Amorim, and I can't wait for him to make his Manchester United's manager's debut on the 24th of November, when we are away to Ipswich Town against one of the newly promoted championship clubs. Away at Ipswich is never ever going to be easy. A lot of clubs have struggled to go and get results there, points and victories, and a lot of teams have come away with nothing. So I'm not going to say it's going to be sunshine and roses straight away under Ruben Amorim. I'm kind of hoping that Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to be able to be part of the football club in a structure that is going to be able to lead this club forward. I mean, would you get Ruud van Nistelrooy on the board? Would you get him working alongside Dan Ashworth and Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox? I'm not sure where Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to fit in after this. I fully expect Ruud van Nistelrooy to go, because I think what Ruben Amorim's doing, he's not just bringing himself, he's bringing all his coaches. And I think that is the main priority for Manchester United, that we get a proper coach with all his coaches coming with him. Because if you put Ruben Amorim with these set of coaches, he's never worked with them. And he's going to be quite skeptical of what those coaches are going to be able to try and get across to the players on the training side of things. And I think Ruben Amorim wants his own coaches there with him, because there's the experience and the guidance, and they've worked with him, and they know what they're going to be able to do to help Ruben Amorim be a successful manager of Manchester United Football Club. Obviously, he's not going to be classed as a manager. He's going to be classed as a coach, which I think is a lack of respect. I think that's quite disrespectful. But in the end, that's probably the title he's probably wanted to feel a bit more comfortable in the role, because he's going to be able to work with the board. And I'm hoping when Ruben Amorim comes in, he will get the backing off the board and the owners, and obviously Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And hopefully, with a January transfer window fast approaching, I think he's going to come in, look at the squad, look at the players he's got. And I think he's going to tell quite a way that the squad strength is nowhere near good enough. We have still got a lot of injuries ahead of Sunday. Obviously, the bonus of yesterday that we have Ericsson, Mason Mount and Anthony all back fit, all ready to play, which is a massive positive going towards Sunday's game against Leicester. Obviously, Anthony didn't feature against PAOK yesterday, but the slight worrying news coming out from Manchester United is Amad Diallo, who scored 2 of the best goals that I've seen all season in a Manchester United shirt, has picked up a knock ahead of Sunday's game. And I don't know what that knock is. I don't know where he sustained it or what type of injury it is. But if Amad Diallo has got a knock, would you bring Anthony back in? For me, it's a blatant no. I don't think Anthony fits into this Manchester United team. I don't think he fits into the system. And I don't think he's going to get any game time anytime soon, because I think Anthony is massively out of favour now. And I think Manchester United are going to try and keep him fit as much as possible and not sustain any more injuries or knocks, so they can shift him in January. Because I think Anthony's surplus requirements, it hasn't worked out since he's joined from Ajax. It's been a very, very bad signing. It's got that Jadon Sancho vibe where it just did not work. And again, it's a massive regret for Manchester United when you pay such big money for a player that's got the potential to do it at the top level. It's not worked out. And again, realistically, it would be better to be starting Anthony on that right wing if Amad is unavailable. But I'm kind of hoping Amad will be available to start, because whatever that knock is, I'm sure today, tomorrow, he'll be able to get that knock away from wherever that knock is on his body. And I think it's either his ankle or his foot that the knock has appeared from yesterday. I don't know how he picked that knock up. I'm kind of guessing it was probably a lot of the work he put it in yesterday. He did much of the grafting on the attacking side for Manchester United yesterday, because I don't think Garnacho really produced his best performance. And again, Højlund was really, really quiet, which again is a big worry, because again, we are not scoring enough goals for our strikers, and even Ruud van Nistelrooy's come out today and said we don't have that clinical striker. And I think that's not just a message to Manchester United, the fans and the supporters. I think that's a message to the board. I think it's a message to the owners. I think it's a message to Jim Ratcliffe that we need a fucking striker. And I think Manchester United and Ruben Amorim are going to recognise that they're going to be on the same wavelength, that we're not scoring enough goals. We don't have that clinical striker. We are going to have to go out and buy one in January. Who that striker is going to be, I think we all know who we're going to get. I think we all know who we're going to get linked with. Victor Gyökeres is probably the main transfer priority and the main transfer target for Manchester United Football Club. I think that is going to be, the player that Manchester United will try and bring in. I think that's the player Manchester United will try to get. And I think that's the player Man United will somehow try to get hold of. Obviously, that would be a massive, massive bonus if we could get Victor Gyökeres out of Sporting Lisbon. It's going to take about 60 to 70 million euros, but I think he would go straight into the first team, knowing Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee have gone quite a few games now without scoring and putting the ball into the back of the net. And again, that is also a worry yesterday, because I think the cameo for Joshua Zirkzee yesterday was quite a telltale sign of this Man United move hasn't worked out. His career at Manchester United is not going to last long. And I think what's also worrying, that Rasmus Højlund's been very, very quiet since the Brentford game. And again, that's another worry, because when you're not scoring goals, the confidence is going to go, the morale's going to go, the confidence is going to fall off a cliff. And again, it is a lack of service from our wingers and from the midfield attacking options, because the team is massively unbalanced at the moment. Like, I look at that front three, and I think that was the right front three to go with yesterday. And I think, for me, that's what we should be building the team around: Ahmad, Garnacho and Højlund. I thought that was the correct decision for Ruud van Nistelrooy to change that team up yesterday. It also sent a strong message to Marcus Rashford that when you're not performing, you're not going to get selected and you're not going to get picked. And it shows that when you've got players that aren't performing, we've actually got a manager who's, going to take the ball by the horns and actually make a big, big decision that's going to affect quite a few of these Manchester United players' careers in the future. I sent a strong message in my view yesterday that Marcus Rashford's future not guaranteed anymore. I think we have started to recognise, and I think Ruud van Nistelrooy has hit the nail on the head. You need a younger front three that are going to be able to develop and become those elite top-class players in the future. Because the more game time they get together, the more time they play together, and the more games they get selected and picked for and they start, the more chances that front three will stick. Because when you had Ronaldo, Rooney and Tevez back in the day, all three of them always started. And Sir Alex never really dropped any of them. Maybe in the Carabao Cup and some of the FA Cup games. But he started for mainly all of them during the majority of their Champions League games, their Premier League games. He managed to pick the best team, and that was when you had Ronaldo, Rooney and Tevez all in their prime. When we were back then, we were elite, we were world-class, and everyone feared playing us. But again, no one fears coming to Old Trafford now, because we're not scoring enough goals. We've got wingers and midfielders where most of the goals are coming from. I'm just hoping tomorrow on Sunday that Ahmad is fit, because Leicester do concede a lot of goals, and the world-class performance Ahmad put in yesterday, this is why I wanted Ahmad to get picked. This is why I want Ahmad to be selected, because I believe there's a player in there. And I think his form and his performances when he was at Sunderland on loan was a telltale sign that this player is very, very special. And I think Ahmad has got the potential, the skill and the quality to become one of the best world elite wingers in world and European football. And obviously, he's still quite young. He's still got a lot to develop, but he's managing to convince me that the answer on the right wing is Ahmad. And the only problem we've got with that, if Ahmad picks up an injury, our backup option is Anthony. I don't think Anthony will play on Sunday. I think Ahmad will shake that knock off and hopefully will start. But if he doesn't start, are we going to see the problematic front three again, where we've either got Garnacho or Marcus Rashford on the right again? Oh, that's not what I want. That's not what I want to go with, and that's not what I want to see, because I don't think it benefits Marcus Rashford or Garnacho starting on the right wing when they're both right-footed wingers. And on that right wing, you really need a left footer. And I think you don't see Marcus Rashford perform there well, and you don't see Garnacho perform there well either. I think if you start either of them on the right wing because Ahmad is not fit and he's not ready to play, or we can end up seeing Ahmad on the bench again if he's not fit to play 100%. I think he'll get through it. I think he'll get through the pain barrier, because I don't want to see the inconsistency on that right wing again, because it will end up becoming a problem. and it will end up getting massively judged on Sunday if the wingers aren't creating many opportunities for Manchester United going forward in an attacking phase of the game. Because if it goes 0-0 at half time, like it did yesterday, and again, there was a lack of performance in that first half. And even Ruud van Nistelrooy again criticised the first half performance, saying that first half was nowhere near good enough. That is a type of elite manager that actually gets it. And I think Erik ten Hag was quite naive to not criticise when we weren't performing well in that first half. Because I think if ten Hag was in charge yesterday, he wouldn't have selected Ahmad. He wouldn't have selected Agate. He would have got Eriksen, Casemiro and Bruno back in that midfield three. And it would have been Rashford, Garnacho and Højlund. With Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's actually criticising when we're not performing well at the level we can be. That was what holds Ten Hag back. Ten Hag didn't want to do that. He didn't want to criticise because he was too busy protecting his players when they weren't performing well. With Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's taken the balls by the horn and he's actually not afraid to go there. He's not afraid to actually go in on the players. That is what you want. And I'm hoping somehow from somewhere, Ruud van Nistelrooy gets kept in some capacity. Does he work alongside the coaches of the Sporting Lisbon lot come in and not actually an assistant? Because I think he will actually want his Sporting Lisbon coaches being ahead of Ruud van Nistelrooy. I think they'll want Van Nistelrooy there in some aspect. But I think, the logical thing is we want to go out there and perform well and give Ruud a send-off, because I wanted it to work out for Ten Hag. I really did this season. I thought this is going to be the season where we winning the FA Cups could actually boost them around the confidence going forward into season 3. Obviously, again, I hold my hands up, did not expect him to be sacked, but it was probably the right decision. And based on the results we've had so far and the performances, it was the right thing to do, because all of a sudden, the new manager bounce is quite clearly active. And I think if Ten Hag was still here, we probably wouldn't have won yesterday. We probably would have lost to Chelsea. And against Leicester in the Carabao Cup, we probably would have struggled, because Ten Hag probably wouldn't have changed that team up a lot for what we saw against West Ham away from home at the London Stadium, which was his last game in charge. So, Ruud van Nistelrooy is actually getting what the fans and the supporters are wanting. He's actually understanding how we're feeling. And I think, he recognises that there's quite a lot of weaknesses in that team. There's a lot of players in that team that are not performing. And again, when he went in on Bruno Fernandes, it's quite a shock. It's quite a step back, thinking, bloody hell, there's a manager there that's actually not afraid to, go in on certain players. And again, that's where Ten Hag went wrong. There were certain players in that group he was protecting, because he didn't like them getting criticised. What you get at Ruud van Nistelrooy is what you see is what you get. He's not afraid to call it out and say it for what it is. If players aren't performing well, you've got to criticise their commitment. You've got to criticise their performance and how then got to encourage them to make the performance better. And the second half yesterday was miles better. We were all over them in that second half. But again, when we took the lead, we stepped off. That's not a positive. That's a big negative. And I don't want to see that Sunday, because Leicester City will go strong. They will take this game incredibly seriously, because they need the points. They don't want to go down. They don't want to get relegated. But I think Steve Cooper, has lost his players. He's lost the dressing room quite clearly. And I think when he sent out that really weak team in the Carabao Cup 4th round at Old Trafford in the previous meeting between both the clubs, that was a telltale sign then of, you had a massive opportunity to go to Old Trafford and win and beat us. And you look at the options on that Leicester City bench that were massively ignored by Steve Cooper. He had Vardy, Mavididi, all the other players at Leicester they've got. They've got so many options in that Leicester team, and they have got quality players that can actually do a job for them. Fatawawu as well is another great creative player. There was a lot of creativity left on that Leicester bench that Steve Cooper ignored. You should have come to Old Trafford and tried to give us a game and cause us a shock, because that might have helped Leicester City in a positive way to try and boost the rest of their season, to be able to take that into their Premier League form. I think Steve Cooper has gone in there and it's been quite desperate. It's been quite amateurish from him. I don't think that was the right appointment from Leicester. I think that was a weak appointment. I don't think it's actually been successful so far. And when you've picked up 10 points from 30, that is a telltale sign of Leicester had all that money for Kieran Dewsbury Hall. And what I saw the other day, that apparently Leicester City invested all that money back into the team. I would love to know where they invested that money back in, because once Kieran Dewsbury Hall was sold by Leicester, where's all that money gone? Can someone pinpoint where they spent that money? because Leicester City don't look like they've improved. Leicester City look like they've got worse. They don't have a recognised striker. Iheanacho is no longer at Leicester City either. I don't know what happened to Iheanacho. I think he's at another club now. I don't know what club he's at. If someone can find that, please tell me, because I don't know what club Iheanacho was at. But again, look at the experience he brought in. He was at Manchester City. Leicester brought him, and he was phenomenal for Leicester. He was scoring goals. He was starting every game for them, and he was such an attacking threat for Leicester. The problem with Leicester, again, they're relying on Jamie Vardy. And again, he's their most experienced player by a bloody mile in that Leicester team. And yeah, you've got Harry Winks as well. They're two of the most recognisable names in that Leicester City team by Premier League experience. And that is because they've been at the top level. They've been there and done it before. But the problem is, if you have Harry Winks and you have Jamie Vardy's getting on now. He ain't going to be there forever. He ain't going to be able to play and play forever. Leicester City also do not put that ball in the back of the net. They are so weak at the back. And going forward, they're even worse, because when you don't have a recognised striker, you're seeing Leicester City playing false nines. And without a recognised striker, Leicester don't score goals. So they're not really an attacking threat, which I don't think is going to cause Man United a lot of problems. Because if you go with Jamie Vardy, how's that going to cause our back four a problem? Because I fully expect the back four to be massively changed on Sunday from the Man United point. That De Ligt and Martinez will come back into the centre-back roles. You have Mazraoui at right-back and probably Delo at left-back. And again, I don't think that's a balanced back four. I think it's quite a weak back four in the left-back position. But again, from Laurie Whitwell from earlier this afternoon, that apparently Harry Amas is nowhere near ready. He's nowhere near fit enough. And I disagree, because if he's on the bench and he's available, and apparently he's not ready and he's not fit enough, then how the hell is he getting on a bench? Because the left-back position is a big problem, and it's been a big problem for weeks. If Harry Amas is fit and ready to play, why are we not using him? And I think I look at the comments and I look at what Laurie Whitwell has said. If Harry Amas isn't ready and he isn't available, then surely he wouldn't have been on the bench yesterday. Is it because of the level he's at? Is it he doesn't have that quality to be at left back yet? And again, that's probably the big talking point. I mean, is that a factor? Is Harry Amas not good enough? Do Man United not rate him? Do Man United think, well, he's not really ready to be at this stage and at this level yet? Because he's only 17, isn't he? But if he's there and he's ready and he's fit and available to be picked and be selected and be able to start, get Delo on the bench and get Harry Amas at left back. So I think, again, it's a huge opportunity when we've moaned about the left back. Give him a chance on Sunday and see what he can do. I mean, I'm not against that. I'm really not against that, in my view. I'll be back in 2 seconds. So yeah, I think Harry Amas has got an opportunity to be starting, and I think he has to be selected because Diego Delo hasn't been good since the West Ham game where he missed an absolute sitter, and then he was at fault for the first West Ham goal in the previous 2 Premier League games before Chelsea. So if Amas isn't good enough and he's not ready, then we've got a big problem. But the positive come out of Man United today is that Malacia is back in full training, and so is Luke Shaw. But the line we're getting out of Man United is they're both nowhere near ready. They're not ready to be back fully fit yet. They're weeks and weeks and weeks away from being at the level and at the fitness that they need to be. So I think there's an opportunity to start Harry Amas against Leicester, because I think Leicester are very, very vulnerable, and it would create more of an attacking option going forward. But I think his age isn't on his side. But if you don't give him that chance and you don't give him that experience to be a Premier League player, how's he going to learn? How's he going to develop? So I think, again, Man United are going to have to sign a left back in January, because all what's got to happen is Luke Shaw or Malacia come back into this team, come back playing, play a few games, and then a few games later, they then pull up with an injury. Luke Shaw, all he's got to do is do his hamstring. Malacia, all he's got to do is get an ankle or knee injury, and we're back to square number one again. So for me, there's an opportunity to give Amas a chance at left back and balance that back four up, which we've been talking about for quite a long time. But if they don't think he's ready and they don't think he's good enough, then the question is money going to be available to Ruben Amorim to bring a left back in January? Again, that's a debate. Would you want that to happen? I think, from my view, it's got to, because we've got no really fit left backs, have we still? So again, it's a positive that we've got Malacia and Shaw back in training, but give it a few games and they're back in and they pull up with an injury again, we'll be back to square number one again. And again, we will have Harry Amas. But again, the comments are quite concerning that he's not ready, he's not fit enough, and he isn't good enough. That's quite a worrying level that this kid might not last long here. But again, it'll be interesting to see the back four, which I think will be dramatically changed, back to Martinez, De Ligt. I think it'll be Mazraoui, and unfortunately, it will be Dalot. The Dalot fan club has gone very quiet in the last few weeks. I don't know whether Diego Dalot fans have gone, but you've gone very quiet. So yeah, we've talked about the midfield. We've talked about the front three. I think, we've talked about the back four, the attacking three. We now need to talk about the midfield. I mean, the bonus, like I said again yesterday, was we've got Eriksen and Mount back in playing now. Both made an appearance yesterday in the latter stages of the second half against PAOK in the Europa League. Would you stop using two CDMs, or would you go with that two CDM options again? Now, a lot of people are saying playing two CDMs is a massive positive, and it's worked out quite well, and the back four seem a bit more protected. But again, I would come back to you and say, don't you think Bruno Fernandes's game is struggling in the centre attacking midfield slot, because he hasn't got the other one next to him to be able to help provide a bit more of an attacking threat through the midfield, to obviously then help the ball more forward to our front three? I think the midfield is struggling. I really think it is. I don't think starting and playing two CDMs is helping Man United in any way. I don't think it's making us an attacking threat. For me, it looks quite amateurish and quite slow and lethargic when we play two CDMs. I don't think it looks great on paper. I think it looks quite boring, because for me, that speaks volumes of let Bruno Fernandes do all the work. Let Bruno do all the centre attacking midfield slots and all the opportunities and all the creativity, and let Casemiro and Agate both protect their back four. For me, I think one of the two has got to be dropped on Sunday. For me, I think it has to be Casemiro. Again, I know we've been a lot more solid with them back both in the same team and both starting together. Agate can do the job. We don't need two men to do the same job. It's like going into a kitchen and you've both got two workers working on the fryer, cooking the chips. You only need really one person to work on the air fryer and work on the fries to cook some chips from the potatoes that you peel. You don't need two people to do the same job. You only need really one. And as long as that one person is doing his job and is doing his role, fantastic. Let that other person go and learn another section of the kitchen. I don't think we need two CDMs, really. I think Bruno Fernandes looks worn out. He looks out of ideas. I think his creativity is especially yesterday. I thought his creativity was really lacking. He looked really lethargic. He did not look like the Bruno Fernandes that I know and love. He just didn't look like his head was in the game. He looked quite lost in some aspects of his performances, some of his touches, some of his passing. He wasn't at the level that I was expecting. And again, is it all the game time he's getting? Or again, is he struggling to be able to do that centre attacking midfield position on his own? Because when he's got Kobe Mainoo next to him, or Eriksen or Mount, whoever you want to put next to him, he's always got that extra role and support and help. And unfortunately, when he hasn't got that, we can't get the ball to our front three enough. We don't create a lot of attacking opportunities from our midfield to get the ball forward. And most of the creativity goes out the window, because you've got two CDMs protecting the back four, trying to do one job. And again, I think we do need to change that, because I don't think it's benefiting us, in my view, in my opinion. I think we need to go back to two centre attacking midfielders and one CDM. Agate's been brilliant in the last few games. He was brilliant against Chelsea, brilliant against Leicester in the Carabao Cup, and he was brilliant again yesterday. Agate is not putting a foot wrong at the moment. You can't question the quality that Agate has brought into this club. And again, Eric Ten Hag ignored it because he had fascinations with bloody Hannibal Mabry and bloody Scott McTominay. He's still very, very frustrated that both of them have been sold. And he didn't want to get rid of either of them. He wanted McTominay to be kept. But again, the manager has to be overruled it, because Agate was a sensible signing for Ineos. And do you know what? I'm glad they overruled the manager. I'm glad they ignored Ten Hag, and I'm glad they brought Agate in, because the manager didn't have a bloody clue on that midfield. He thought McTominay was God's gift. He probably thought Hannibal Mabry's got the quality to be able to adapt to become that next Scott McTominay. I'm sorry, mate, but Ineos overruling it was the biggest decision, which was the correct one, to get rid of McTominay and Hannibal Mabry. Because isn't it funny? McTominay has a good few first games for Napoli. All of a sudden, hasn't Scott McTominay gone very, very quiet? You haven't heard anything, have we? I mean, do we need to get the RAF out? Do we need to call a search party? Because all of a sudden, it looks like that move has benefited off for us, as well as getting rid of the midfielder that, to an aspect, he's Scotland's best player, along with Andy Robertson from Liverpool. Like, he was never going to be good enough for Man United. He was never going to get ahead of Agate or Ericsson or Mount or Bruno Fernandes or Mainu. McTominay's future was dead in the water. As soon as we got rid of McTominay, brought Agate in, that was a positive. But Ten Hag made it look like it was a major negative and they didn't want him in. And that's how I felt. I felt Agate was treated badly under Ten Hag. Agate hadn't done anything wrong. It's not Agate's fault. He's better than McTominay and Hannibal Mabry. And you're bloody fascinated with bloody Scotty and Hannibal Mabry. Like, get over it. Like, seriously, get over that they've both been sold. We needed to do it to get Agate in. And I back Ineos on the decision, because the last three games, the midfield looks solid now with him in that CDM role. But again, we don't need two CDMs starting in the same role trying to do one person's job. We need that extra centre attacking midfielder next to Bruno to help with the creativity, to help get the ball a bit more in a creative sense, get the ball forward to our front three and start creating chances and get that ball to the front three a lot more quicker. Because you try and do have two CDMs in the same team and you've only got Bruno, the attacking phases die out. We don't get the ball enough to the front three. And when we try and attack and they lose the ball, again, we are having to rely on the two CDMs to do that one person's job, to be able to protect the back four. We only need one. And I think for me, this is a huge opportunity for Mason Mount. This is make or break for Mason Mount now. And personally, if it was me, I would be starting Mount next to Bruno Fernandes, because Mount in the first 2 or 3 minutes looked like, wow, where's that been? Where's that Mason Mount been? But he slowly drifted away from the rest of the game, which again is a little bit frustrating, because, he's got that iconic number 7 shirt next to him. He's not long just come back from injury, and obviously he's probably a bit rusty, a little bit. The game's catching up with him a little bit. But again, with the likes of Mainu out injured, Casemiro could do with a rest. Ericsson, he hasn't got the age on his side anymore. He hasn't got the quality to be able to do it week in, week out like he did under season 1, which was under Ten Hag. I think this is a huge opportunity now for Mason Mount to be given some game time. Let him start next to Fernandes and let's see what we can do from through the midfield. And it would help Bruno Fernandes a bit more. It would be able to make that midfield a lot more creative. And I think for me, let's see what Mount can do. Let's see what he can produce now. Because if he's back and he's fit and he's ready, let's drop one of these CDMs and get another centre attacking midfielder next to Fernandes. Because it obviously would benefit Fernandes. His quality would go up. That was missing a lot yesterday from Bruno, in my view. That was missing an awful lot. And I think now, let's help the creativity get back into his game. Because when it's coming mostly through him, he's got no support bracket. And that's what I've seen from the midfield quite a lot in the last few games. There's no midfield support for Bruno. It's lacking massively. And I don't know why we're ignoring it. I think it's probably down to the injuries, because we've been stuck with Casemiro, Agate and Fernandes for the last 3 games in a row. And obviously now Ericsson and Mount are back. That's going to help. All we need now is Mainu to be back, and then we can go with Bruno, Mainu, and Agate. That would end Mason Mount's career. That would end Eriksen's, and it's probably going to end Casemiro's. I think if we could find a move for all three in January or maybe in the summer, we get that number 7 shirt taken off Mount because it's not worked. It's been a curse for him, and he should have never been given in the shirt in the first place. That was an Eric Ten Hag decision, by the way, to give Mason Mount the number 7 shirt, the most iconic shirt in the club's history. What a brilliant idea that fucking was. Casemiro and Eriksen won't be here at the end of the season. I think United will shift both of them with the amount of years left on their contracts. Eriksen will probably go for free. They'll try and shift Casemiro out. I don't know how much they're going to get for, and they'll try and shift Mount out as well. And then you're then going to have to reinvest in a lot of that midfield. You're probably going to end up having to sign another 2 to 3 midfielders to support that midfield a lot more. And again, it's a huge opportunity now for Mason Mount to start proving his worth. But again, there is the worry of Eriksen and there is the worry of Mount. If either of them pick up an injury again, we are then back to square number 1, because we will then end up having to play 2 CDMs again with Bruno Fernandes on his own in the centre attacking midfield slot. We want to avoid that. We need to avoid it. And it needs to be avoided very, very quickly for being a catastrophe again. Because like I said, if you lose Mount and Eriksen again, Mainu still ain't fit, weeks away according to Ruud van Nistelrooy, but he is progressing. We are back to Agate, Casemiro and Fernandes. We've got no other midfielders. So we've got to look after Mount. We've got to look after Eriksen. And they're going to have to keep themselves fit now. They've got to. They have got to keep themselves fit. Because I think one more injury to Mount and one more injury to Eriksen, their careers are over. Mount's Man United career is not going to last long. We should have never brought him in the first place. That's been a disaster since we signed him from Chelsea. Eriksen is going to eventually fade away and Casemiro will be gone. So we've got to avoid all problematic problems coming in the future. We've got to avoid these players picking up injuries now, because what will then happen, the injuries are costing us, we'll not be able to perform at the level. Without certain players, we can't do this. Without certain players, we can't do that. We don't want to be back to that excuse, because that is what we saw under Ten Hag. I don't want to see, the injuries are a problem. We haven't got the options available. We're playing too much football. At the end of the day, the players you've still got left should still do a job. I know it's not benefiting them and they're not being able to perform level because they're having to do most of the work, but they should still be able to do their job. They should still be able to perform at the level you want them at. And that's a responsibility and a mentality thing as well. If you've got these players performing well and the whole team's fit, great. But as soon as few players start dropping off for injury and you see no certain players out for a long time and other players that are playing most of the game time still getting selected, not getting a break, not getting a rest, the mentality will fall, the performance levels will fall off. It's because they're getting so much game time and they're trying to perform at a level every week without the rest of the players they've got unavailable to them. So again, it's a mentality and commitment issue there. But again, I think for me now, the best option is we drop one of these CDMs. I think for me, Casemiro has to fall by the wayside. Okay. We Casemiro falls aside. We bring Mount back in next to Fernandes. Let's see what those two can do in a creative aspect, more forward thinking in the midfield attacking positions. Let's give Casemiro a break. What? Okay. Give Casemiro a break. Get Agate more consistent. Let him have the game time he deserves, because he's deserving at the moment. Agate's been absolutely solid since he's been starting the last 3 games. And let's give Mount this opportunity that he wants. Let him show what he can do in a number 7 shirt, because there's a player in there, but I think the number 7 shirt is a massive burden on him. But again, it's Ruud van Nistelrooy's last game. Will he stick with the same team from yesterday? Will he bring Rashford in for Ahmad if Ahmad's not fit? Will he start Anthony ahead of Ahmad? Will he drop Casemiro and bring another centre attacking midfielder to support Bruno Fernandes? Will he get to Little Martinez back at centre back with Mazraoui at right back? And will he give Ahmad his chance at left back to prove himself? Apparently, if he's not ready, he's not fit and he ain't good enough. It's going to be interesting to see. I think score prediction-wise, Leicester are there for the taking, aren't they? It would not surprise me if we see another 5-6-0 win against Leicester. But Leicester City are going to be a much changed team from the Carabao Cup team they went with. We will see all their big name players, Mavadidi, Fatawawu, Vardy, Harry Winks. We will see the Leicester City team a lot from last season, but they will change the team from what they saw in the Carabao Cup. So I think they're there for the taking, but let's see what happens from the full-time whistle from Old Trafford on Sunday afternoon. Hope you enjoyed this live look ahead. Please hit the like button, share button. Please keep subscribing to the channel. United Red Devils 20 on YouTube. Share the video, hit the tweet button, hit the retweet button. Remember to always put the notification bell on all times, because we've got so much brand new and exciting content planned for these last 2 remaining months in 2024, in November and in December. Brand new videos, brand new shorts, brand new live streams, and brand new games we're bringing as well to the channel. If you want to be part of that, please subscribe, put the notification bell on so you're part of all that. And then obviously, please join me from the full-time reaction and from the full-time whistle on Sunday evening, which obviously the game isn't on the telly. I've got a way of watching the game, which is a positive, so I can watch the game in full now, which is a great thing. Let's see what happens at Old Trafford come Sunday evening. Will it be another strong performance against Leicester? Will we drop points? And can we start climbing up that Premier League table? But I'm confident and I'm excited to see what happens. And hopefully Ahmad will be fit. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of Friday evening. Enjoy your weekend as well. Stay safe. Be nice. Be kind to you. You're all legend. You're all legendary. And I'll see you all on the next one.